Hello there, Star Wars fans. In not-so-shocking news, Peaky Blinders writer Stephen Knight has officially left the announced Star Wars Rey Palpatine movie. Announced just recently after 19 months of working on the script, Kathleen Kennedy has lost another writer for her Star Wars passion project. With Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy still set to direct the film, Lucasfilm is now again looking for writers. However, this movie will be forced to be delayed again, and most likely resulting in Disney having to look beyond that December 2026 slot they have for a Star Wars film. Flashback to my previous video on this movie. I explained the news of its last delay and how none of it was a surprise. And actually, this most recent news might lead to a permanent shelving of this film, as I speculated before. I'll link the previous video below. But while this looks like another failure for Kathleen Kennedy, not all the news is sad and embarrassing. We also have news that the Mandalorian and Grogu movie has finished filming, and that the upcoming Dawn of the Jedi movie, directed by James Mangold, might start filming as early as next year. In this video, I'll go over all the news on these and, of course, my thoughts on what's going on. But before I continue, please give the video a like and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss what's going on in your favorite galaxy far, far away. First announced by Puck News and then confirmed by Variety and other news outlets, head writer Stephen Knight has left the in-the-works Rey Palpatine New Jedi Order film. Brought on in March of 2023 after famed writers Damon Lindelof and his partner Justin Britt Gibson were fired from the project. Stephen Knight has had nothing but issues with getting a script greenlit by Kathleen Kennedy and Lucasfilm.
And what does that make ketchup?
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
But honestly, to no surprise, after 19 months, he has left the project. Now my question is, was he fired or left on his own accord? And personally, I think it's the latter. Stephen Knight has been lining up his next few ventures for some time now, including the now filming Peaky Blinders movie, which had fans speculating about his dedication to the Star Wars script. It's been no secret that Knight was having issues with Kathleen Kennedy in the studio when it came to this script. It's been reported by insiders for a few months that Knight was getting frustrated with the creative differences and constant notes on all of his drafts submitted. For many, the writing was on the wall, but some still held out hope. We discussed previously how this is par for the course when it comes to projects announced by Kathleen Kennedy over the last few years. Several announced movies and shows that have major delays, production issues, never get discussed again, or end up on the shelf indefinitely with no announcement as to why. So here we go again. No script, no writers, an antagonizing, divisive activist director, and a story concept for a character many don't like or care for since the abysmal sequel trilogy. And this is all on the back of the downward spiral the Star Wars brand has been on since its last movie released in 2019, The Rise of Skywalker. So where does Lucasfilm go from here? Daisy Ridley has hinted at good news coming very soon, as we'll have to wait and see what that is. Some opportunities to get the updates can at Disney's D23 event in Brazil, which is just over a week away. Some Star Wars updates will be shown there, such as a Skeleton Crew trailer, and even a joint panel with Lucasfilm and Marvel, which can be a chance for many things. Maybe Daisy does know more about what's going on, and is correct that the film is still moving forward. Or maybe none of it matters, and it won't come out anyway. According to Daisy Ridley, the film is evolving. I think that is simply the most friendly way to say she has no idea what's going on and is in the dark. She mentioned maybe it could film sometime soon, but with all these delays, we know it definitely won't. She still hasn't seen a script and was only brought back based on the few ideas Kathleen Kennedy shared with her before Star Wars Celebration last year. And now, it seems that the earliest we might see this film is sometime in 2027. But speaking of films announced at the last Star Wars Celebration, the Dawn of the Jedi movie is apparently moving along and could be set to start filming sometime in 2025. James Mangold nominated for 2 Oscars, once as a screenwriter for 2017's Logan, and once as a producer for directing Ford vs. Ferrari. He also has worked with Lucasfilm prior to Star Wars with Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. But let's not talk about that. Insider Daniel Reichman is saying that after Mangold's next upcoming project, Complete Unknown, Mangold's set to shoot his Star Wars movie Dawn of the Jedi. It could happen as early as next year. All we know so far about the prequel film is that the Dawn of the Jedi will explore the origins of the Jedi taking place in the earliest era in the Star Wars franchise. The film is set 25,000 years in the past, and the possibilities for its story are endless. Beau Willimon was also recently tapped to co-write Dawn of the Jedi alongside Mangold. Now, to be honest, I am interested in this movie, and I think it can actually be good. It's nice to see that this isn't plagued with production issues and shitstorm we're so used to seeing from Lucasfilm. However, I do still have some concerns. While Mangold has some great accolades under his belt with films such as Logan, Wolverine, Ford vs. Ferrari, and Beau Willimon having done well with writing some Andor episodes, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny is a huge ugly stain for Mangold. Indiana Jones is also a franchise created and owned by Lucasfilm. The Dial of Destiny, in terms of fan reviews, box office performance, and in general, is seen as a huge flop and embarrassing failure. The reason why this concerns me is because that means that James Mangold has already worked within the Lucasfilm system, and the result was less than good. If the quality of the story and messaging for Dawn of the Jedi is the same as Dial of Destiny, then we have a problem. With a script like that being greenlit by Kathleen Kennedy, it makes me wonder about the quality of the Dawn of the Jedi script that's being greenlit now. This movie will have to dive deeper into the mythos of the Force and set the stage for the original rules of the Force in the Star Wars galaxy. While it's good that this movie shouldn't tamper with the future events in the timeline and characters directly, it can still twist and mangle the rules and concepts of the Force itself that doesn't align with George's vision. For many fans, including myself, the Force under Disney has been weird. It seems that current Lucasfilm doesn't truly understand the Force of George's thoughts and ideas about it. When it comes to the Jedi, the light side and the dark, balance, and the abilities of the Force, I feel that Disney has lost the plot.
The power of one, the power of two, the power of many.
What the fuck?
And sadly, this is a huge part of the Star Wars mythos and a driving factor in the stories, lessons, and setting for the Star Wars galaxy. This is definitely a topic for discussion I'll elaborate on in the future, but for now, I'll leave it at that. With Disney not understanding the Force or elaborating on the concept of the Force in a meaningful way, I have my doubts about a whole movie that'll be so centered around it and the Jedi Order itself. Even the Jedi under Disney has left most fans angered, as clearly Lucasfilms seems to have a goal to tear down the Jedi and what they represent. But just like Episode 4, I'll have a new hope for the film since it's moving along, and maybe this could be a win for Star Wars and fans. Another positive news update is around the Mandalorian and Grogu movie. It's been reported that filming has wrapped on the movie. This is a project being overseen by Jon Favreau and has seemed to move very quickly in production since its announcement just earlier this year. The film is rumored to be a rework of the would-be Season 4 and will be some culmination of what many call the Mandoverse. While it is the last movie to be announced in recent years, it will be the first movie to come out since The Rise of Skywalker. A lot more focus and attention seems to be towards this direction, while Kathleen Kennedy's announcements overall have been gasping for air since 2019. So really quick, I want to recap and highlight the last few years up to this point. You had the sequel trilogy come out, and a big chunk of the in-house fan base said, "F this, I'm done."
Screw you guys. I'm going home. Cartman! Screw you guys. Home.
Each movie of the trilogy saw diminishing returns, and even other projects like Solo were becoming collateral for the divisiveness of the sequels. It's known that then Kathleen Kennedy goes to the CEO of Disney, Bob Iger, and asks for a break on the movie side for a few years so they can recalibrate and get some good films in the works. Fast forward to now, all the announced movies from before last year's Star Wars Celebration, not happening. The Rian Johnson trilogy, never gonna happen. The Taika Waititi film, never gonna happen. The David Benioff and D.B. Weiss trilogy, never gonna happen. Patty Jenkins' Rogue Squadron movie, who the hell knows, but I think it's never gonna happen. All of these announced projects have had similar or exact stories as to why, with the main story from Lucasfilm to sweep most of these announcements under the rug and never mention them again. Usually all of these fall under the creative not having enough time right now and are too busy, or creative differences with the studio and Kathleen Kennedy directly. Even with films that have been released, creative differences have been a topic of discussion when production went sideways. Looking at Solo, for example, Lord and Miller were fired halfway through the production and cited creative differences with the studio as to why. Solo ended up losing Disney around $77 million and is known for being reworked almost entirely during filming. Now, looking at the announcements from Star Wars Celebration 2023, Rey's new Jedi Order movie, the Dawn of the Jedi movie, and Dave Filoni's film, all will be coming out after a reworked season of a show that was only announced earlier in 2024. So the way I see it, no one wants to play in Kathleen Kennedy's sandbox. She has astoundingly destroyed one of the greatest and most popular franchises in history. She has cultivated an environment where creatives do not want to operate. All the aforementioned creatives have gone elsewhere. I don't think they're coming back. Now, some of that might be a blessing in disguise, since I don't want to see any more Rian Johnson in Star Wars, or Taika Waititi in Star Wars after Thor 4, or the writers from Game of Thrones after that abysmal final season. But even then, clearly her taste or approval means little to nothing at this point. Lastly, let's look at what has been greenlit and produced in the last few years by her. Andor, Kenobi, Book of Boba Fett, which clearly had studio interference with bringing back Grogu to Mando, for whatever reason you want to believe. The Mandalorian, with Season 3 totally having experienced the same interference issues as Boba, Ahsoka, Tales of the Jedi, Tales of the Empire, Visions, and finally, The Acolyte, which was somehow the worst of all.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
I'm a fan of The Mandalorian Season 1 and 2, Visions, Tales of the Jedi, Andor, and parts of Ahsoka. But out of all these projects released, that's not a great ratio. So even what's coming out is poor overall quality anyway. And for Kathleen Kennedy, whose biggest goal is the Rey movie, she just can't do it. She can't get this off the ground anyway. And maybe that's a good thing. I hope it doesn't come out and she can leave sooner than later so we can drop most of what's been announced. Well, that's all for today from your favorite galaxy far, far away. What do you think? Do you think the Rey movie will come out? How do you feel about the other movies moving along? Do you feel the same way I do, or is there something I'm missing? I'm curious, so leave a comment down below. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming out next. Thank you for watching, and may the Force be with you always.